Hello, my eagle friends. Welcome and welcome to a very exciting show here. This is a show that's going to be divided into 68 parts because there are 68 recognized eagle species now. This can vary, and there are some fights that are possibly among some biologists or whether some should be recognized or not. But that's beside the point. The point really is to explore the exciting world and look at the many eagle species that we have. So we're going to assume at the moment that there are 68. And today we're going to start with something very interesting. We're going to go right into the heart of Africa because in North America, you may know there are only 2 recognized eagle species. When it comes to South America, we have about 9. Australia has 3. And the majority, which is probably 60 or even more, are in Eurasia and, of course, in Africa. So today we're going to jump right into the core of Africa and explore the first of our series called the Wahlberg's eagle. And for fluency's sake, I will address any questions and comments later, and I will get right to it. So let's start. So the first question that we can ask ourselves is, where did it get its name from? So its name originated from Jan Gustav Wahlberg, who was a Swedish naturalist, and he was a very keen explorer. In fact, he lived from 1810 to 1856, so he became only 46 years old, which surprised me very much because naturalists usually would live longer. So what happened to this man? And so the eagle was named after him. And he was a very keen traveler as a naturalist. And between 1838 and 1856, he was going mainly to southern Africa and also to Botswana and those areas, and sending very many hundreds, if not thousands, of specimens that he saw right back to Sweden, to the museums, and to have them analyzed. So it was a very exploratory time where a lot of naturalists were keen to understand the species, after Darwin and so on, much better. So when he was actually exploring the famous Okavango area, he was killed by a wounded elephant. And I asked myself, how is that even possible? What happened there? Well, it turned out to be so that in order to fund himself, he did go elephant hunting, which at that time seemed to be very normal. Nowadays, it would be absolutely terrible to think like that. But at that time, he was not supported by the Swedish Academy, at least not sufficiently. So he had to earn money by selling ivory. And apparently, that was also where he died at his fate, because he was trampled to death by an elephant. So much for Mr. Wahlberg. So what does this eagle look like? Let's have the next look. What does it look like? So that is the next question. So you can already see the picture behind me, what what it appears like. And I'm going to show you a few more pictures straight away. So let's jump here to this screen and here to my library. So that's the first impression that you get of the Wahlberg's eagle. So it's, as you can see, it's got a rather brownish color, and it looks a bit sort of like a chocolate color, but it can easily be confused because its plumage can vary quite a lot. You can see this looks a little bit more chestnut, and it can vary from dark chocolate brown, reddish brown even. That's on the next image. You can see it's a bit more reddish brown, and all the way to white pale morph, right? So its plumage can vary quite a lot. And because of its varying plumage, it is very often confused with other types of eagles, for example, the tawny eagle and so on. In South Africa alone, where this eagle is also present, for example, in the Kruger National Park, you will find that there are more than 10 or even 15 different species of eagles. That is quite enormous, so it can actually be easily confused. So what does this eagle sound like? And there I have a subscription also to eBirds, and I'm just going to take this for educational purposes and play this to you. It's got quite a haunting sound. See, it's almost like a whistle. Let me play that once more. Yeah, that comes a bit as a surprise, at least it did to me. So much for that question. So let's jump to the next question. Yeah, how large is this eagle actually? And that's quite interesting. So I'm just going to put the question away and take my friend here at the background. So I'll just clear the background a bit so we can take my friend here. So this is from the Hancock Wildlife Foundation. Let me just put this on large so you can see this much better. So this is actually a taxidermist true size of a bald eagle. It's a large female eagle, and it gives us some size comparison because typically, from a length comparison, if I turn the eagle around, and thanks really to the Hancock Wildlife Foundation to where I could lend this for a few days from. So you can see the length here is approximately 40 inches to 1 meter. If you look at the Wahlberg's eagle, it'll be about half that length, so it's rather small in comparison. If you were to look at it from the front, I would assume that the Wahlberg's eagle would go from about here to here. So rather small for an eagle, and that's also one of the smaller eagles in the world, in fact. So let's take a closer look at it again. In fact, let's just jump back to the other screen 1 second, just to show you a little bit more about its beak. Jumping back here again. Let's see if we find a few more pictures here. Yes, we do. So there you go. It sometimes even looks a bit like a hawk, right? So it can be a little bit confusing. I'm just going to push our friend out of the way so we don't confuse what we're doing today. But you can see that it definitely has some relationships also to a hawk, right? And you can see it's a bit smallish, but absolutely beautiful, right? Very good. So let's go to the next question. Yes. Did we do this one? How large is the eagle? Yes, we answered that one. By the way, if you talk about size, the weight of that eagle is about 3 pounds, which is maximum the female about 1.4 kilograms. Like in all the eagles, the female is larger, up to 40% larger than the male. And it's about 4 to 5 times lighter than a bald eagle in comparison. So that is quite the comparison. It comes a little bit as a surprise, to see such differences. So then, where does the eagle live? Let me just draw up a map here. Did we, let me just see if I covered all the questions. Yes, where does it live? Yes, that's right. That's the next question. So let's just jump up to a map here and let me get this question out of the way. 1 second, there we go. Okay, so you can see here is a map of Central and Southern Africa. And if you look carefully, you can probably see here there's some yellow parts. So that is the native breeding area. In fact, it mainly breeds south of the equator. That's the main region here, but it resides all the way above the equator. You can see all the way Tanzania and Kenya, and then there comes a belt across Nigeria, Ghana, and Guinea, and also Burkina Faso. So you can see it's resident in all those areas, but it does also migrate quite a lot, especially when it comes to spring in Africa, south of the equator, which is from about August to November, right? That's the typical time where you would see a lot of breeding. Right, so we answered that question. So where does the eagle live? Let's jump to the next question. That's really exciting. Who are the relatives? And by relatives, I mean who is genetically related to this eagle. And for that, I'm going to take this wonderful help of OneZoom, which I've done before, which is quite useful. That's the tree of life with over 2 million species. And we're going to zoom right in and have a look and see what it's like. So I already typed in here Wahlberg, because that's the name. And we're going to jump in now into Wahlberg's eagle. And I'll do that. And here we go down, here we go down let me just do this again. 1 second. I just did something there. Yeah, we're going to zoom in once more, all the way into the tree of life, and see who is related to the Wahlberg eagle. And here we are. We arrive right at the bottom at a branch. And as you can see, as we zoom in a little bit out, and we can see who's closely related to the Wahlberg eagle, and we can see about 6.8 million years, according to the knowledge of science right now, the Wahlberg eagle separated from other genuses of eagle. And you can see related to it is the little eagle. Let me just try and expand this a little bit if I can. Oops, no, it didn't. That's sometimes a little bit difficult. Let me just go back again so you can see this a little bit better. Zoom in a bit more. Here we go. There we go. And the booted eagle. Now, the booted eagle doesn't come as a surprise because the word booted actually means that it's got feathers all the way down the leg, right? So it's got, we will explore all these different eagles, but let me zoom out a little bit more and go into the next branch so we can see who's not that close relative, but a little bit of a further relative. And lo and behold, here is the golden eagle. That comes as no surprise. The golden eagle, of course, is much larger. We'll explore that later too. But it's also got these booted legs, of course. So where then does the bald eagle sit with it? Far, far away. Far, far away, actually. So I'm going to zoom out a little bit and go up the branch here to all these different species. Now, I hope I get this right because it's not easy to do this all. Yes, and here we come to about 30 million, 25 to 30 million years. You can see there it branches off from the bald eagle, which is the sea eagle, off into the different other eagles. So that is more where the old vultures, the hawks, the buzzards, and the eagles branched off. So that's there were about 185 species, and that happened about 30 million, 25 to 30 million years ago. So that answers the question, who is the relative to it? So let's jump back to the next question. Here's the next question. Yes, what are its breeding habits? And this is quite interesting, actually. What are its breeding habits? So in order to explore its breeding habits, let me jump back into the first page and just jump out of this, and I will want to show you some videos that I found. Here we have something, a video here on ebird.org, to which I subscribe, by the way, to support them. And there you can see the typical breeding habits of it. And let me just get the text out of the way so you can see this a little bit better. No surprise, it will breed in the fork of large African trees, right? Typical baobab trees or other trees that are quite large. Now, it doesn't breed as high as the bald eagle does, that typically can go up 100 feet or higher, or 30 meters or higher. It's much lower. It's more the height of an osprey nest that ranges somewhere between 5 meters. And let me just see that I get the facts correct here. 1 second. It was, yes, 5 to 22 meters, right, is a typical height above the ground. And you can see they would collect sticks similar to what we are used from eagles. They would collect sticks and they would fight and put them very, very carefully to have a very cozy home. That is how much we can say about their breeding habits. But of course it goes a little bit further, right? So once they breed, how long is the incubation time? Now, we know from bald eagles it's about 35 to 40 days, maybe 36, 37 days in average. That's the incubation time, and they would typically lay 2 or 3 eggs. The bald eagles would, yes. That's typically what we observe. Well, surprisingly so with the Wahlberg's eagle, it is only one single egg. And that really surprised me. I didn't expect that at all. So And it also broods only once a year, right? That also comes as a surprise. And it does that, as I mentioned before, in the sub-Saharan or south of the equator. So South Africa, Botswana, and all these other areas would be very much the breeding ground for them. It would be usually choose large trees, and it would choose areas that are either close to water or close to feeding, which we'll get to in a moment. So that's quite interesting. I'm just going to play this video once more so you get an impression of this. So it's a very nice video here that you can see of the nesting behavior. So also surprisingly so, if they do occasionally, so the incubation time is a bit longer. It's 43 to 46 days, so it's longer than the bald eagle. But then the fledging usually takes 70 to 77 days, which we are more used to from the bald eagle. But it can also take all the way up to 80 days, and that depends very much on specific circumstances. Now, if they do ever have two chicks, siblicide is very common there, so that one eaglet would kill the other, and it seems to be rather common with the Wahlberg's eagle, and that's the way the nature has preserved it, because it takes a lot of energy for parents to raise both chicks, and very often in harsh Africa that is not possible. So it is important that one chick survives, and that is the way that nature seems to arrange that. So it's very typical only to have one brood per year and only one chick survive. Right, next question, now that we've got this one out of the way, of the breeding habits. So what does this eagle feed on? And let's see, I have also found some pictures there. Let me just jump out of this one so you can see something on feeding if I find it. Let me just look very quickly because I have had this before. Maybe I can't find it now, but no surprise. Here it's close to the water. No surprise. It doesn't feed, of course, on fish because it's not a fish eagle at all, but it would typically feed on lizards, on small rabbits, on tiny mammals. Let me see, it's got quite a big menu here. Let's see, where did we go? Let me just find the rest here. Yes, game birds, guinea fowls, small buzzards, and in some exceptions even owls, and some goshawks. And it would also feed on mongooses and even bats, so quite versatile. And some amphibians, even insects. So from grass fires, when insects would escape, that is something that the Wahlberg's eagle would also feed on. So termites, beetles, grasshoppers, it's a huge list here, right? You have to be very versatile in Africa in order to survive. And this bird obviously has adapted itself very well to all kinds of circumstances. And then the final question that we have is, well, how many are there of these? How many are there? And the good news is they are not at all endangered. They're about, the estimate goes somewhere between 60,000 and 100,000 in total. So that looks similar probably to our bald eagle list that we know here in North America. So this is quite a common eagle in Africa. It's one that I have not personally seen yet, but as soon as COVID goes down, I will definitely make effort. So I hope you enjoyed the first series of the Wahlberg of the Eagle series, and we will go on very soon with a new series. By the way, I wanted to say the Humans and Wildlife show will be back next week, and then I'll take some questions now and I'll try and answer them. Very quickly, just that you know, the Humans and Wildlife show now has, it's every Wednesday at 1 p.m. Pacific time. Now Georgia has made a beautiful homepage for it, so it's humansandwildlife.com, and that's where you will find more information about the series that we've done in the past. I will try at some stage also arrange a special website for all the 68 eagles. If there are volunteers who want to help me do that, then please write to zasaphoto@gmail.com, because it's so much work. As you can imagine, I'm doing this part on eagles all by myself, so it would be it would be wonderful to get some help. So if you feel like doing some research and supporting me, that would be wonderful. By the way, also special thanks to Osprey Mama at the moment, who is administrating and helping with a lot of questions. So having said that, I'm quickly going to, that's where this week's show ends. I won't tell you yet what comes next time, but I do promise that it'll be very soon when we'll have the next series on the Eagles until we cover all the 68, which is quite a journey, isn't it? So I hope you enjoyed that, and I will look there. Why wouldn't they eat fish? Well, Kit, that's a question. Well, of course, fish is protein, and they would live on protein, but they're not scavengers, right? They have eating habits that are probably more related to the golden eagle, right? It's just the way nature evolved, and they are probably more in areas that have some fish, but not as much as we don't have. They don't have salmon runs and so on. So they would be more adapted to lizards and other animals that they would typically find in their area, right? Okay. Hi, David Howden's also back. I was wondering about that. That's wonderful. So that is good to see you back, gentlemen, Ghost, and everyone. Let me just have a quick look also at... let me just see. Let me have a quick look here at, hopefully I can find this now, if I can expand this. Let me have a look here at Facebook and see if there are any questions here. Sounds interesting. Is the Wahlberg's eagle smaller than the American bald eagle? Yes, I think I answered that quite, at least half its size, and from its weight it's about 25%. The whistle sound is like a whistle, isn't it, Adira? It very much is. I'm curious if not confused, is this eagles like a hawk? Well, you'll find that many eagles, in fact, are very much closer related to a hawk than even to an osprey or something. Although the osprey is called a fish eagle in German, Fischadler, it is not at all an eagle. It is genetically not related to it. And so many hawks and buzzards are much closer related to eagles. And that's the way they evolved. Okay, now I have to try and expand this. This is always a bit of a difficult with Facebook, because for some reason always the comments close. Okay, here I'm back again. Let's see if I find any. Thanks for wonderful. Thank you for your kind comments. Let's see. T.A. Green is, are they in competition with any other species for food and territory? Yeah, that's a good question. I don't know the exact answer if it comes to eagles. I mean, I know where your question is coming from. That's a very good question. I don't know the answer, and we will possibly find the answer as we continue. You know, I mean, we have that, of course, in North America, a lot of fights for that. It's a great question. So I will try and see if I can find the answer, or if someone ever feels like helping me, that would be wonderful, because it's so much research material. zassefoto@gmail.com. Write to me, and if you want to be a volunteer and just support, this is all for education, to find background material, that is absolutely appreciated. Hi, Susanna. She is a very smart biologist here. Concerning Johann August Wahlberg, he traveled in Southern Africa. Yes, that is correct. He did. That is correct. That is exactly right. He was in the Okavango. That's exactly what I said, Susanna. You're right. He was a very keen traveler, and I also mentioned that he was trampled to death by an elephant. I will put a reference to him also. That is organized by a Swedish website. I will put a reference to him. Thank you very much for mentioning that again. He's got a very interesting history, like many of the naturalists at that time. And with up to the age of 45, he did so much in his life. It is absolutely incredible, right? And they had to finance themselves somehow to do the exploration. So that's completely correct. Oh, now the window has once again collapsed, unfortunately. I don't know why Facebook always does this to me, that I can never see the comments, but I will try once again to see if I've missed out on anything. Are culivarians different subspecies? Bert, I'm not entirely sure. All I can say is that the plumage the plumage varies quite a lot. I don't even know if there are subspecies of the Wahlberg's eagle. I would suppose that they are not, because subspecies is a very how should I say, whether subspecies are defined or not, or whether they become separate species, is something that is, well, it is almost very arbitrary. So in this case, I would say it's more the variation of the plumage that makes it difficult, not so much the subspecies. At least that's the date as of today, and that can vary in future. Maybe you're right, and maybe there will be a subspecies one day. Okay. Well, how long do they live? I think yes, I forgot to mention that. If I remember correctly, it's again around 20 years. In the wild, of course, it can be much shorter, but I would say it's 15 to 20 years. So it's very common for eagles to live that long. Okay, so I thank you, Osprey Mama, for helping me with this. I really appreciate it. So on that note, thank you very much for attending and your interests. And I will announce the next part very soon. And you're always welcome to send me messages, zassefoto@gmail.com. So just the handle that I have, zassefoto@gmail.com. And again, if you want to somehow support me with some research, it's completely voluntary, that really helps me. And then I can release all the series much faster. On that note, many, many thanks. You're looking forward to the next one, Pat. So am I, actually, because this is so exciting. And I will travel to South Africa because my sister lives in South Africa. And as soon as COVID goes down, I will go and try and take pictures of the Wahlberg and the African fish eagle and many other ones. So on that note, thank you so much for being with me today on the first series. I hope you enjoyed it. Please leave comments and share. That helps me. This is all for education, my dear eagle friends.